A very good morning to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to MyStats 2020. First, I would like to take this opportunity to wish Happy World Statistics Day to all statistical communities. This day also marks the fourth celebration of National Statistics Day in Malaysia. It is my pleasure to be the moderator for this forum on data revolution, transformation in the digital age, which is conducted in conjunction with the 7th Malaysia Statistics Conference, or MyStats 2020. Welcome everyone to this forum session. I'm honored to share this session with three wonderful ladies who are experienced in their own field. Our first panelist is Ms. Francesca Kay. Francesca joined the ONS in January 2010 as head of the IT project delivery. Since then, she has held several senior roles in ONS, including leading the development strategy for the UK National Accounts, leading the transformation of ONS economic and population and public policy statistics. Currently, she is the Director of Integrated Data Strategy and Delivery ONS UK. She is responsible for designing and delivering a strategy which will transform the way data is managed, used and shared across ONS and government, unlocking its potential to increase efficiency, improve policy and decision making, and provide better public services. Francesca leads digital and data transformation to allow collection of data, securely store and analyze data from news source. She also leads the preparation for Census 2021. I think we wait for a few minutes for the disturbance to be off. Okay, sorry for the disturbance for just now. It's just our normal morning call whereby we put up the songs for Department of Statistics. Okay, allow me to continue. Our second panelist is Ms. Norliza binti Hashim, Chief Executive Officer of Urbanice Malaysia. Ms. Norliza leads the local secretariat team for World Urban Forum 9, where she works alongside UN Habitat WOOF unit to deliver the objectives of the forum, and has since then worked with all levels of government, decision makers and stakeholders at both national, state and local levels towards localization of the agendas. In realizing the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on Cities 2030, she further leads to organize the Malaysia Urban Forum and co-organize the Asia Pacific Urban Forum to bring local and regional stakeholders together to dialogue, discuss and declare actions to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda. Last but not least, we have Ms. Amirthavalli, Daughter of AV Muthiah, Principal Assistant Director of Economic Planning Unit. Ms. Amirthavalli joined the government services as Administrative and Diplomatic Officer in 2004, and since then she had held various positions in the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ministry of Home Affairs and Perak State Administration. Currently, she is attached to the Labour Market section in Human Capital Development Division and the Economic Planning Unit, and responsible for labour policies. She works closely with the Ministry of Human Resources and the relevant counterparts in updating the labour laws in line with the current developments and looks into labour market participation. She is also involved in designing the medium-term policies in South Malaysia Plan related to labour market. Okay, for this forum, it consists of two rounds. The first round will touch on the various challenges faced by each organization from the perspective of data sharing and data integration. Without further ado, I would like to start this forum with our first panelist, Ms. Francesca Kay. Please welcome.
Sorry, it was a little bit difficult to hear. Can I just check that you want me to start now? It's Francesca, is that okay? Yep.
Yes, you can start now. We can hear you clearly.
Right, okay, I'm just going to share my slides just to so everybody can see my slides. I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. It's very nice to see so many of you here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about various different types of big data that the ONS are using at the moment. We've been using big data for a number of years, but this has been accelerated over the last 6 months due to COVID. And I am going to talk about some COVID examples, but also to provide some examples of how other uses of big data within the UK. A lot of this work is focused around the ONS's data science campus, which was set up about 4 years ago. And this has been helping to build skills, technology, in using big data and techniques such as deep learning and machine learning. COVID showed how we could really turn that learning round very quickly. It also showed that you need to have that combination technology, novel data sources, modelling, and then to be able to share that learning and to share the outputs that are being produced from that big data. So in the UK, we've been working with colleagues in how we could identify where COVID hotspots might be across England. We've been doing about looking to see whether we could find some different types of early warning indicators. And this has included things like the sale of pharmaceutical products, looking at wastewater, and also a reporting app called Zoe, where citizens could report their. We've been combining this with other risk factors such as population characteristics, mobility data, and also employment to understand the impact of COVID on our community. But what's been really interesting is that it still shows that even if you've got great big data, you still the phase, which we've used so that we can benchmark big data like our infection study. And it always shows just that we will never be able to move away from surveys. Just go through a few examples, one of which was using machine learning to convert Google Place PDFs to provide insight into mobility. And that was so that we could track the effectiveness of lockdown early on in the pandemic. We've also one of the things that we found in the UK is that we've had to withdraw our field forces in collecting data in a whole range of different surveys, but also including collecting a section of prices of goods in shops for measuring inflation. So we've been looking to accelerate already looking at the prices of the goods that have been sold.
Francesca, I think we are losing you a little bit. We can't hear you very clearly. Can you just, I think, okay.
There's an
all right.
awful lot of background noise that's really quite hard to hear. Is that any better? Is that better?
Yeah, this one is better.
Is that better? Do you want me to repeat anything?
Can you just go over the slides you have shown just now on the screen now?
The scanner data, this one. Do you want me just to repeat this one?
Yeah. Please repeat the one on the scanner data. Thank you.
So, as it may be in data in other countries, we've not been able to carry out collecting of prices of goods in shops for measuring inflation. So we've been looking to accelerate work that we've already been taking place using scanner data. So this is data collected in supermarkets on goods and the prices of goods that have been sold. And this chart shows that the prices of most products have trended downwards in terms of the UK and some of the key product groups that we've been collecting scanner data on. Another example is how we've been trying to understand what's happening in the into employment during the COVID period. And we've been using job vacancy data from an organisation called Adzuna. And this is how do we really look at in each of the different industrial sectors what's happening to employment. And again, you can see quite the differences that have taken place between 2019 and then 2020 in terms of COVID, particularly in fields such as hotel and retail and catering and hospitality, where we've seen obviously a big difference in terms of the employment market. Another quite novel use of big data is looking at whether we can spot viral load of COVID within wastewater. And this is something that has been based on some research being carried out by Sumitri Malapti. And the data that I'm showing here is actually from the Dutch study. But it does show that whilst it's difficult to be very specific and accurate, in terms of the trend, we do see that if you can take samples and you look at the viral load in the water, it does then tend to mirror quite well a rise in infections in terms of COVID. Just to move on to some other examples which are not related to COVID, I thought it would be interesting to show some of the work that we've been doing around climate change. So this is an example of where we've been looking at how we can more accurately measure urban green spaces. So in the UK, we've got our gardens, and a lot of people in the UK, some of them do use have grass or vegetation, but we also have quite a lot of gardens that are covered with concrete or decking. And so what we were trying to do is much more accurately measure the urban green spaces, whereas previously we just tended to assume that the whole of the garden would be a green space, whereas now we're able to much more accurately define what those green spaces are, and then that can help in terms of understanding urban heat and also around our carbon footprint. Another example in terms of looking at climate change is really understanding and evaluating the amount of surface water. So again, this is using satellite imagery and techniques like machine learning so that we can really understand and get a very up-to-date picture of the amount of surface water that is available. So this is something that can be used both in terms of understanding where there are water shortages, but within the UK also understanding, giving us early warning if there are likely to be flood situations, and therefore helping to plan the response to those incidents. I thought one of the things that might be interesting to look about is that while Census isn't necessarily considered big data, I do think one of the most interesting uses of data and technology in combination is potentially the creation of synthetic data. I think one of the challenges for all of us is ensuring that the public have confidence that their data is safe and secure. And as we all know, the more that we link different data together, the higher the risk of disclosure. And there are also risks in terms of re-identifying data even once it's been anonymized. So we've been looking at how we can use synthetic data in an increasing way to help perhaps overcome some of those challenges. So ONS has been using this as part of our Census 2021 preparations. And although the project that we've been doing is been more about testing our processing systems, but potentially it could have other applications in terms of thinking about security and making sure that we use data in a safe and secure way. I just wanted to finish though by really emphasising the importance of training, learning and the use of big data and technology. And this is something that ONS likes to work with other organisations and other NSIs, particularly through our data science campus. and the Department for International Development. And we've been looking at how we can run various different training and sharing knowledge and best practice with a number of different organisations, so that we can make sure that across the globe, but we're making the best use of big data. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for sharing the experience of the UK in terms of data sharing and use of alternative data in producing statistics. Next, I would like to address the question to Ms. Norliza. Ms. Norliza, you have a few initiatives at Urbanice Malaysia, like Malaysia Urban Innovation Hub, Malaysia 100-Year City, and Malaysia SDG Cities. Are there any data integration processes involved in this project? Over to you, Ms. Norliza. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. If maybe Francesca, if you could stop sharing your screen, would be great. Yeah. Anyway, very good morning to all. I'm Norliza, and I'm the CEO of Urbanice Malaysia. And Urbanice, we are actually a think tank or a center of excellence under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. A lot of the work that we do, we deal with looking at realizing the policies of the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. And in that sense, we have a more bottom-up approach where a lot of our programs are dealing with communities, especially communities of the B40 and the lower part of the M40. So the programs that Puan Nazaria mentioned just now, a lot of the programs that we do, it is actually in relating to how do we empower communities. And in doing that, we are also not so much on data integration, but more towards learning and collecting this information and data and trying to understand whether the policies that we have is in line with the issues we are facing on the ground. So the work that we do is in a way validating information and data that is already written in a lot of our policy documents. For example, in the we have a platform called the Collaborative Community Resilience. It's a platform that we started during COVID itself, during the lockdown, the first. And it was meant as a shared platform. And the idea is to collect data, information on what communities are actually doing in building back the livelihoods of communities in Malaysia. So we find that the learning, the sharing is another way of collecting information and data, because I think when you have a high urban issues that you're facing today, you need to learn fast enough, and you need to try to localize that in your local context. So that's the kind of data that we deal with. We also have a program that, the Malaysia SDG Cities, where in that program, we encourage all our 154 local governments in Malaysia to actually prepare their roadmap in terms of localizing the sustainable agenda. In that process, yes, we encourage local authorities to collect local data, because I think that's important, because what we lack in Malaysia is having that first-hand information on issues like urban poverty or hunger that's happening in your local area. You might have the statistics in terms of numbers, but you really don't know where geographically and in which location. So I think the whole idea in a lot of work that we do is trying to address that the 3 feet issues on the ground. And I think in light of what we are facing here in Malaysia, high urbanization rate, a lot of the issues are at the urban areas itself. And hence, aggregating our data information to that level, making it more granular, I think it's very, very important. But another aspect that we looked at is also through our forum. We have the Malaysia Urban Forum, and that's another platform where we want people to share progress of their work. So in a way, it's another way of us again collecting and understanding where we are, measuring our progress in terms of the sustainable agenda, how far have communities gone. And because the platform is really open to anyone and everyone, stakeholders can actually come and share their work. That enables us to collate all this information together and try to understand year by year, because it's a yearly program, year by year where we are, what organizations are doing, and how do we move on. I think that's the kind of work that Urbanice is doing, and in all our work we try to have a community centric approach as much as possible. Like for example, we also recently launched Active Life, which is a healthy lifestyle application that the more you walk, the more you cycle, the more you reduce carbon. So in a way, we also want to educate people that through good lifestyle, people are helping also to improve the environment. So I think when you are only, we are trying to create a two-way traffic here. In a way, not only harvesting information and data, but also communicating with our people. And I think communication is very, very crucial in the environment that we operate today. And this is where, if you are to solve a lot of the issues on the ground, such kind of integration, communication, and a more holistic approach is required. So I think that's for now, Puan Nazaria.
Thank you, Ms. Norliza, for sharing a very salient points. Yeah, on I like the idea of community resilience platform that you have shared just now, whereby you just get to know of what is the community doing, as well as on the having the statistic that's 3 feet to the ground, yeah, not 300 feet above. That was a very good effort by Urbanice. Okay, I move on to Ms. Amirthavalli. Ms. Amirthavalli, with the ever-changing labour market landscape, the needs for real-time data is very crucial. From the viewpoint of policymaker, how do you see data sharing across agencies will improve human capital and labour market policy development? Over to you, Ms. Amirthavalli.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to Economic Planning Unit to be a participant in this forum. As you have pointed out, I'm from the labour market section. So basically, I will be narrowing down to talking about only labour market information. And this topic is like very close to Economic Planning Unit, because like we are actually moving towards, not moving towards, we have been always doing planning based on evidence, and where more evidence can we get if from data. But the point that we would like to make is the importance of integration between different sources of data. For example, like I would like to, in economic planning, I think like a labour market is the manifestation of a successful economic planning, because most of the time we look at the data. For example, like now during COVID time, the most important data that we always look at is unemployment rate. But unemployment rate, like published through we are picking up from the labor force survey, for example, is only unemployment that describe people who have who during the survey week says that they are looking for a job. But that data is of course internationally compatible, the rate. But then when we want to look into this does not include like the discouraged workers and underemployed, who are actually the vulnerable group that need policy intervention. So if we rely only from one source of data, we could not actually do more intervention to help this group of vulnerable people. So that's why the importance of data integration. Besides we are relying on labor force survey, for example, we also need to look into administrative data and public records in order to pinpoint who are these people who are, for example, the discouraged workers. This is actually to what has been pointed out by Ms. Norliza also, going granular in the data to find out the specific target group that we can actually intervene. For example, like from the labor force survey, we can know the rate or the percentage. But if we can integrate it with other data, then we can get the real target group. So that is importance of integration of data, and also we are also looking at what like Ms. Francesca has pointed out with big data, emerging sources that can also give some ideas into giving more insights to policy making. So that is another point that we are looking at. And of course, if you talk about labor market, an efficient labor market is where the supply and demand meets. So as you know, like supply is from the talent, it is controlled by the data are in, for example, in higher educational institutes, higher Institute of Higher Learning, sorry. And then the data are usually in Ministry of Higher Learning, but then the demand data is somewhere else. So the challenge is actually to bring all this data together. That is the biggest challenge we are facing, because data are now is available, but it is fragmented and it is everywhere. To bring all this data to give tangible benefits and some insight to the policymaker, that is the biggest challenge we are actually facing nowadays. And for 12 Malaysia plan, in order to move, so there, beside data integration within various sources, another challenge is of course the data sharing between the different agencies that are holding all these data. For example, just now when I said the supply data and the demand data are in different places. So to bring them together, so when the challenges that we face when we need to get the data, always people, sometimes they keep on saying that they are tied to the PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act, which actually sharing between government is not actually quite relevant in that sense, but that is always pointed out. And then of course, agency also, if we need to get data from them, they always say that the data was only given to them for their purpose and they are not allowed to share. So that is another problem that face. And of course, there's also some of the agency feels that when they freely gives out the data, and then it can expose their weakness itself, like especially those of enforcement agencies. So these are the challenges that we face in order to ask different ministry or agency to share the data, to bring it together, to give us an insight, an intelligence, because data by itself, like just now when I pointed out, like in LFS, the data is there, but it itself, as we know, is a survey. So it could not give us to narrow down to the real target group. Probably it can give us a broader picture, but to get to the granular level, we need to integrate it with different data, and this data might sit in some other ministry. But in order to bring them together into one platform is the challenge we are facing now. So in 12 Malaysia plan, which is a medium development plan that will start in 2021, we have actually come up with two things that we would like to really look into. First is the labor market data framework. The framework is actually a document that will say which ministry is supposed to supply which data, and then how frequently and how we are going to do it. Either is it through API or is it manually pushed? It depends on, these are the whole things will be in the framework. And then this framework is actually to support the labor market information analytics platform we are actually trying to develop in 12 Malaysia Plan. This platform is where all this data, the different sources of data will be pumped into, so that we can do some analysis for policy making itself. Because you see, when the data is in the different ministries, they are collected based on the function of that ministry or that agency. So it might not, when we try to tally it or harmonize it with another source of data, it might not give us straight away, we might not get some tangible benefit out of it. So it has to be harmonized in order to get the same level of understanding. For example, we have even within that ministries, for example, the definition itself differs. For example, the difference or the definitions of employability is not same across the employability that DOSM probably use and graduate employability used by KPTs are different, and same as graduates. Even graduates have different type of definition. All this has to be harmonized to get to understand the data and to do analysis on that. So this framework is what we are looking at. We hope that the framework is like will be an institution for us to carry on with this. This process will take a long time, so we hope that this will be the seed to carry on this process. And okay, the analytics platform. So there are the challenges that we face for now, Puan, and we hope that both this project will be successful and the analytics platform and the framework. Another thing, okay, like the challenge that I would like to illustrate here is that when people keep on giving data, but when they don't see any tangible benefit, they stop. So that is another problem that we face. In the beginning, they might be, even though we have made some agreement with them, so in the beginning, they might be giving us some data, but in the end, when they see that they don't get any benefit out of it, it is always like a one-way communication. They have been giving data, but then they don't see any benefits, then the process stops. So that's why for this thing to successfully work, the data sharing to work, is both sides have to get some benefits. So what we always tell, like just now I was pointing out, enforcement agency, they always do not want to share data because they believe that it might expose their weakness. The weakness, for example, saying that they are not doing enough enforcement and all those things. So what we always tell them is, instead of exposing weakness, it gives you, when we analyze your data and we can pinpoint that thing is not being done because you are lack of enforcement officers, that can be a point for you to actually ask for more officers, and then do your enforcement more effectively. So in order for this whole thing to be successful, both party has to benefit. That's how we see it working in the long term.
Amita, I think we have another round. Maybe you can continue at that session. We have to go to the next round.
Okay, thank you very much, Puan.
But thank you, Amita, for sharing on the requirements. In terms of the labor market data, we do really need the data on both sides, the supply and demand. And then there are challenges in Malaysia in data sharing, and I think the good move under the Malaysia whereby we're going to introduce the framework. Okay, now let's move on to the second round of the forum. In the second round, we will discuss on the adoption of technology and digitalization for better decision making. Okay, Francesca, could you You are also leading the preparation for Census 2031. How do you see the technological landscape changing as we move forward? And what are the challenges do you foresee in doing this? Over to you, Francesca.
Okay, thank you. So I think with census, I think there are a number of challenges with census and technology, and almost I suppose there's two key elements of this. If you're conducting a more traditional census in the sense that you're still going out and doing a survey, how do you effectively move that to an electronic questionnaire? So in 2021 in England and Wales, we're going to be using a mainly digital first census, and the technical issues with that are largely to do with the scale and the number of people that are likely to complete the census at the same time. So that requires quite a lot of use of cloud technology, so that you've got the resilience and the performance in terms of the number of people filling the surveys in at the same time. However, I think with the future of census, actually in England and Wales, we're looking about whether you actually do carry out a census in the same way in the future, and whether you actually use the range of administrative data sources that are already available to collect detail on your population, so that it can be done in a more timely manner on a more regular basis. I think the challenges there, in terms of the research that we've done in the UK, is that broadly for the population, in terms of going down to doing the basic sex and age, in terms of fairly local granular level population, that can be quite accurate. But the more you go down into local, into smaller and smaller areas of geography, the harder it gets. And also, in particular, we find that there are gaps in terms of some of the data that we would want to collect for, that we normally collect in the census, that just simply isn't available in administrative data. So I think those are I guess that's not necessarily a technology issue, but it's thinking about how do you try and find different sources to collect those other characteristics, but
Dia tak nampak aku buat apa kan?
for some time a combination of using administrative data but supported still by a large survey. Sorry, I don't know if you're so it's using, how do you use the technology and the digital for the online collection, but combined with the administrative data and bringing those data together.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesca. I think that is also the experience of Malaysia in doing our census this year, whereby we're also using e-census for the population, and as well as also collecting the administrative data for later use in the census. Thank you very much for sharing. I think I would like to go to Miss Norliza. Ms. Norliza, growing urbanization has led to over half of the world's population living in cities, which are centers of economic and social influence. How does data digitalization helps overcome the problems related to this urbanization? For Ms. Norliza, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Nazaria. I think definitely when we talk about urbanization, especially for Malaysia, we are very fast in terms of urbanization, 78% now, and I think by 2040 we're going to be about 85%. So I think what's needed is we not only need data, but we need data to be digitalized so that they are available, and easy to be accessed. Because what we have currently, I know that Census is doing a great job in terms of, especially the latest census that we are doing now. It has much more requirements of data. So we are also excited to see, the outcome of that. But I think in the work that we do, we are also trying to make this data more geography, maknanya more localized to the area per se. So, and a lot of issues when you talk about urbanization, definitely the focus is on urban areas. So we most of our data are related to the district level or the Mukim boundary level, but I think we need data at the urban boundary level, and I think this is something that needs to come out very fast if we are going to address the urban issues in more tangibly. Because having data which is more digitalized, that means to say that these data could be better analyzed, better in a way, and analyzing it to the level that we could create more scenarios in terms of planning, because what we have are problems in the city, so we need to understand how to deal with these different scenarios. And we also needs to be, whatever we do needs to be more evidence based, because I think a lot of policies, it takes, we have good policies, we don't need to really redo the policies, but what we need is to understand how far we've done it and whether or not we could do better. And this is where having data which is more digitalized, more available, it allows us to have more data analytics that could allow us to be making decisions better, and also making the scenario of planning much better. So and also when data are more captured in a more digital manner, then you can also share this information and data across. And I think this is where, when you have a lot of urban problem, we need fast solution. And the best way to have fast solution is for the community itself, the industry themselves, to respond to the issue on the ground. And they can only do that if they have this data available. I think Amrita raised a lot of issues just now, in the sense that, we have a lot of information, but how do we bring data together? And I think through digitalization, you can bring this data together, but I think it's not just about bringing it together, it's about integrating the data and also allowing it to be shared. And that's something that we are not very open with our data accessibility to the public. And I think, and because at the end of the day, we want also to be more reporting on the ground, so that sometimes we really don't know. Like now, we're going into our 12 Malaysia plan, but but whether or not we audit the programs that we've done, how far we've achieved it, and I think this needs to be continuously done, so that we could address these issues much better. And but I think digitalization of data also requires not just the hardware, it's also about the software. And Francesca also was sharing about learning, training, and I think this is something that we also need to do, so that people or people who are assessing this data, they also have the skills to actually develop or use this data better, so that they can unlock the value of the data that has been collected. So skills to manage data, skills to develop them further, I think is just as important. And we are growing so fast now. The issues on the ground is so much, and the amount of information is also a lot, but it's just a matter of bringing it together. So definitely digitalization, having platforms are very important. So at the I think at the ministry, in our plan Malaysia, we also have the Malaysian Urban Observatory. And in the National Physical Plan 3, the idea is not just to have the Malaysia Observatory at the national level, but we also encourage national observatories or local observatories to be done at the city level, at the state level, or even regional level. And it should not just be done by the government. It should be a collaborative effort between government, even education institutions, and organizations that are interested in data. so that I think you could speed up this process of putting data together, and in that way probably we can see better results in the policies that we have put forth to overcome a lot of the issues with regards to urbanization. So I think it's time, and we are already going into 2021 next year. We've reached a lot of milestone in 2020, but moving forward, I think this is the concept of sharing, concept of integrating, collaborative, that we need to be able to do if we were to overcome a lot of the issues that cities are facing. Yeah, thank you, Puan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Norliza. Again, is really highlighting about the importance of data sharing and how we should share our data through digitalization, and the importance of having the skills also when we have data. But if we don't have the skills, then how are we going to unlock the potential of the data? So that's a very important point, Ms. Norliza. Thank you. And I would like to go to Ms. Amirthavalli again. This is the last question, yeah? Ms. Avita. It is the government's nature to do more with less. In this regard, data revolution plays an important role to increase government's efficiency to serve the nation. In the medium-term plan, how would this be adopted in the government's directions and strategies? Ms. Amita, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Puan. Do more with less. Yeah, it's not only with the data revolution. That's what a government has to do. We have to be prudent in using taxpayers' money. So we always try to do more with less. So like what I pointed out just now, when we come up with this labor market information analytics platform and the framework, for labor market data itself, we could not deny, because in the earlier part of there are actually a few agencies that are collecting almost similar data, but because there was no coordination earlier on, so we can, that's how when we have this common framework and this common platform, it be like a sort of stock taking of who should, where there's a redundant of collection of data and all those things, we will try to streamline them to give in order to not having so many agencies doing the same things, collecting the same data. If it is, but of course, some of the data are for their functional basis, then they have to do it. But the common data that can be get from somewhere else, we try to share those data. Another thing is when we have both this framework and also this platform will be supported through a governance structure also at the highest level, we hope, so that through this governance structure we could actually streamline all these labor market information projects that is going around in many ministries. So that is how we are going to streamline, and of course do more with less with data is we are using this data to come up with better policies, and as I say, the streamlining is very important as stock taking to know who is having what, and in order not to duplicate, because when we don't do this stock taking, the more and more projects will be actually replicated, which in the end could not bring any tangible values to the policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amita, for highlighting that we have to streamline, yeah, in terms of data, especially on the labor market. We have quite a number of agencies actually is looking at the labor markets and at the same time collecting the same data. So I think this is a good effort within Malaysia at least for us to streamline the data collection and to focus on and sharing on the other data that we have. Yeah. Okay. I think I would like to thank all the panelists for their very informative and very interesting points being highlighted just now. And we can move to the next session, on the question and answers. We have about 10 minutes for this. And for those, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask questions, you may raise your hand to notify us and use your microphone to ask, or you can type the questions in the chat box. And then please mention your name and please also state to which panelist you would like to address the questions. I open the floor to question and answers. Okay, we have one. Please proceed.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Puan and all the panelists. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts. It's very good insights for this morning. My question to Francesca. We know that for the Malaysia experience, we face a lot of challenges in terms of data sharing. And I think for UK, you have come to a phase whereby the data sharing has helped the government has helped the government to making a good decision. So how is it for the UK overcome of these challenges? Thank you.
Okay, so I think what the question was how.
Francesca, we are not hearing you.
Sorry, sorry. Can I just check? The question was how can how have we overcome some of the challenges about data sharing in the UK? Was that the question?
Yeah.
Sorry, there was a lot of echo. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things I suppose that we've been doing in the UK. A few years ago, there are I suppose what I would call the formal legal barriers in terms of being able to share data legally across government, and the UK government brought forward an act about 3 or 4 years ago which allows the ONS to have access to data for statistical and research purposes. So that gave us the legal basis on which we can gain access to the data that we need. But actually, in reality, what we find is it's mainly the cultural barriers in terms of people being willing to share their data. Both of the other panelists talked a bit about this as well, about understanding the benefit from the organisation that's actually sharing the data. How does it benefit them? So it has to be very much that two-way process, so that they gain something out of it as well as us in terms of receiving the data. And one of the things that I've been leading in the UK recently is something called the Integrated Data Platform. And this is how we're looking at bringing data from different government departments and bringing it together and linking it, and therefore making it accessible back to those government departments for their analysts, for their researchers, so that they can carry out the assessments in terms of policy interventions, evaluating those policies, and also forming those policies in the first place. And really, a lot of that is going around talking to the government departments, explaining what we're doing, getting that consensus in terms of when wanting to share that data. And I think the third area is actually getting political support with a big P from ministers, so that they understand the benefit in terms of sharing data, so that they will encourage the departments that they lead in terms of sharing that data. And that's something that we've been focusing on a bit more in the UK recently, and that's really helping to unlock some of those data shares. So I think it is a combination of having the right legal basis, but together with the right culture and understanding in terms of benefiting that system more widely.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for sharing. I think the X, I think for Malaysia also, one of the hindrance is also the X. And we are actually in the midst of discussion, and some of the agencies are taking the lead in ensuring or making in the future that so that the X will allow us to share the data. It's actually a X above all the other X. Yeah. I think we have another question. Thank you, Francesca. Hello. I think at this point in time, we have our chief statistician also joining us during this forum. Dr. Sri, would you like to ask any questions or share any thoughts on this topic?
Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. It's not really a question, just for sharing my thought for for this discussion on the issue on the transformation in the digital age. I believe that the issue or the challenges facing by a statistical community is how we can narrow the gap between the expectation from the stakeholders. When the stakeholder can be the government, can be the private sector, can be businesses, and also people at large. And we know that in this world, people as the whole, they are in terms of their intelligence, their capability to get the answer, to criticize and to participate in all things happen in the country or in the world is becoming very tremendous. So in our part on statistical community, how we can really manage the expectation. So I think I believe we need to really increase our speed in terms of increasing our capability, our new skill set. I think this is very important. I'm not sure how in Europe, perhaps Miss Francesca can elaborate more how in the case of ONS, how the capacity development been done for the new statistician. And of course, in this our statistical system, we really eager to transform our statistical capability. Is not continue to be seen as a statistician. We want also to have a very good skill set to be what we consider as the data scientist. I give back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sri. I think, Francesca, you have a sort of a question there in terms of the capacity development of a new statistician at ONS or in the European community. Maybe you would like to share that with us, Francesca?
Yes, of course. Hi, very nice to meet you. That's a statistician. So we have had, I suppose, a couple of big initiatives within the ONS. One of them is the creation of the Data Science Campus, which is particularly focused on upskilling within ONS in terms of adding additional data science skills. But we have a whole program of training that we run for our statisticians, but also for statisticians across government as well. We run mentoring programs. We also are taking on apprenticeships. We're also sending people to do degrees and masters in data science. So we kind of do a whole range of different skills, and each of the transformation programs within economic statistics, and then on the census and population side, those transformation programs also involve training in terms of looking at how can we use the new technology, how can we use new languages such as Python and R. So each of those transformation programs have a training element with them, and we also look at how do we form partnerships with academics as well, so that we can bring in outside knowledge and expertise. For example, there's an institute called the Alan Turing Institute in the UK, which again is very focused around data science, so that we look at bringing people in on secondment from those organisations and sometimes seconding people in other organisations. So we try a different range of different learning, and also working in partnership with other government departments, particularly on something called the Data Science Partnership. And last year we did an audit across the whole of government in terms of the data science skills, and now we then brought out a report with a series of recommendations on how to further those skills. So that's available if people are interested in it. But so it's a kind of different range across those. But it is so we're looking at trying to get 500 data scientists across government in the UK over the next couple of years. So it's quite ambitious. And yeah, so those are the sorts of things we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Francesca, for the response. Yeah, a lot of new initiatives.
Follow up
Okay.
from what you stated just now. Thank you very much. About you mentioned about you do the audit for across the other government agency on the data scientist capability. How that been done? Is it by the outsider or by the ONS?
So we did it in conjunction with a department within our Cabinet Office, our Government Digital Service. So we basically ran a survey. We contacted each of the government departments and asked them in terms of the level of data science and how many data scientists they had across government. So it was something we did internally. And if you're interested, I'm very happy to put you in touch with the people that organised the audit, and we can share some more information about how we went about doing it.
Thank you very much. I think we like to have more information on that. Thank you very much, Francesca.
Okay, well, let me know. I think you've got my details, so just get in touch.
Right, sure.
We're happy to help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have another question from Hazlin Aryani from University Technology Mara, and she said, do you think we should have a professional certification awarded by a body to further enhance the credibility of statistician and data scientists? I think maybe this one is also for Francesca. Can you hear the question just now, Francesca?
Yeah, so it was about having a qualification for statisticians and data scientists. So at the ONS, we've been working in partnership with 2 or 3 universities to offer a master's in data science and a degree in data science. So I do think it can be very helpful to have those professional qualifications. We have that alongside the professions in the UK in terms of having a formal, being recognised as a statistician within the government statistical service, and we have similar for the government economic service, the government social research, and the government operational research. So each of those professions within the UK have formal recognition of being a member of those professions. But data science, it's not the same, but it has those masters and other degree opportunities. And we do that both by effectively having people do that part-time in terms of when they're working at the ONS and working in partnership with academics. So that's how we look at in terms of getting those professional certification.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesca, for the answer just now. Any other questions from the floor, please? Okay, I think there's no more questions. Or any last call for any questions? Okay, I think there is no more questions. We have about another 5 minutes. I think if there is no question, I would like to move to the last item. That is the conclusion. Yeah, in the way forward. Okay, I think for today's discussion, we really have a very good discussion and a very good discussions on the topic data revolution and transformation in the digital age. And we have very good input, yeah, from the three presenters. And I've already jotted down a few big items that is being discussed. One is by Francesca just now, how the UK has used the other data sources and emerging data sources and use it as another data source for statistical purposes. And also we heard from also Miss Norliza as well as from Amita actually on the need of granular data for us to get insights, yeah, into the situation, especially at the 3 feet under, yeah, whereby we need the information to see how we can help those need, yeah. And then there is already also mentioned about the challenge, yeah, to get the data and the insight, yeah, in terms of data sharing, yeah, that is by the stakeholders, yeah, to get all the data needed to do the necessary intervention. And in terms of data sharing, yeah, as for the case of Malaysia, we still have all the acts, yeah, as one of the hindrance, whereby everybody has their own acts and they are not allowed by the act to share micro data. And I think in the UK, they already have a very good practice whereby they already have the overarching acts that allow the statistics ONS to get the statistics, yeah, from the respective data provider. And then the other issue is whereby some agencies they get the data, but the data is only provided for them and cannot be shared with any other stakeholders. And also as for some enforcement agencies, as mentioned by Amita just now, whereby they are quite reluctant in sharing because they are afraid that their weaknesses will be exposed, yeah. So that is also another issue facing data sharing, yeah. And then digitalization is also another area, yeah. If we could go through the data sharing, and then we need to digitize the data and make it accessible to all the relevant stakeholders. If we have the data and it is not digitalized and not shared, then it defeat the purpose of having the data for the benefit of the stakeholders. And then the other thing that is being mentioned that is very, very important, and especially highlighted by our chief statistician just now, is especially and also by I think Ms. Norliza just now, the importance of having the skills to analyze the data. If we have the data and we have it's already shared, but then if we don't have the skills, then we cannot unlock the potential of the data and how with the results, we can actually improve the situation or the problems that we are facing at our frontier. Okay, another thing that is being mentioned, very important by Ms. Avita just now is actually to have to bring together both the supplier on the supply side and demand side to share the data and then for us to get the insights having just like for instance the labor force survey is not enough because it can provide the macro level data, information or statistics or indicators, but to get the insights we need additional data, and of course the administrative data can help us in this light. And I think this is also being highlighted by Francesca just now, whereby how they go about and having to go to the agencies and having the data from the agencies being shared to produce statistics. Okay, and then it's also a good thing for the Malaysia plan, the 12th Malaysia plan. A labour market data framework is going to be introduced, and also the analytics platform is also being proposed, and it is our from the framework, we will have a better data sharing, within the agencies, and we can get with the analytics platform, we can unlock the potential of the data, and we can have more insights to help us with the policy and the relevant programs to help the people. So I think the other thing that is very important is being highlighted, is also to streamline the efforts, to streamline the efforts within the agencies, so there is no duplication, and all of this require collaboration, not only within the government, within the our statistical institutions, but also within the agencies as well as the other partners outside there. And it's also very important, I think it's already also highlighted just now, whereby when we have an outside agencies or institutions sharing the data, they also need to get some benefit from their sharing. We have to also to take this into our thoughts. So I think that's all from me as the moderator for today's forum, and I'm very happy we have a very good discussion, and also very good session on question and answers, and I hope everybody would benefit from this forum today. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.